So here's the story Jamie Lee Curtis shared on a podcast, and honestly, it's one that hits you in the gut and lifts you up at the same time. It's a roller coaster. It starts with one of the most shocking tragedies Hollywood has seen in years, but it ends with a tiny baby boy arriving just when hope felt out of reach. Let's rewind for a second. Jamie Lee Curtis, you know, the Oscar winner, your favorite scream queen from Halloween, the woman who turned yogurt into a cultural moment, and someone who's always seemed genuinely open and real, sat down with Michelle Obama and Craig Robinson on their podcast IMO. She brought up December 2024, and if you were listening, you'd hear her voice crack, and you'd probably end up wiping your eyes too. December wasn't just a cold month for her family. It was everything, all at once. Unimaginable grief and intense, surprising joy. That's what she said. And there's really no other way to put it. To get why December hit so hard, you have to know about Rob and Michelle Reiner. Rob Reiner, the director whose films are stitched into so many memories. When Harry Met Sally, A Few Good Men, The Princess Bride, Stand By Me. He's basically responsible for multiple generations quoting lines at dinner tables. Michelle Singer Reiner, his wife, was a photographer and activist. The two together were a Hollywood love story. Partners in everything, devoted, standing side by side through years of highs and lows. Here's the extra twist. Rob and Michelle were the godparents of Jamie Lee Curtis's daughter, Annie. Not just acquaintances, but family. So when the news broke, Rob and Michelle found murdered in their LA home on December 14th, allegedly at the hands of their own son, Nick. The shockwaves weren't just headlines or trending hashtags for Jamie and her family. It was as personal as it gets. Annie had lost her godparents. Jamie had lost close friends. But here's the part that honestly made everyone stop and breathe for a minute. Rob and Michelle Reiner died on Annie's birthday. Jamie Lee Curtis brought it up through tears. She called it life on life's harshest terms and life on life's most beautiful, perfect terms. There's no script for moments like this. And, as if life wasn't complicated enough, the story doesn't stop there. 1 week later, Annie gave birth to her first child, a little boy. Jamie Lee Curtis became a grandmother, and the timing was wild. 7 days before, the family had been torn apart by loss. Now, there was new life. The two emotions, grief and joy, just sat right next to each other, tangled up, impossible to separate. Jamie Lee Curtis spoke about Annie, about her strength, how she somehow held the sadness and managed to channel that energy into bringing a new soul into the world. She said, "They died on her birthday. My beautiful daughter, who loved them like we all did, managed to be able to metabolize that grief and sadness, and then brought their son into this world a week later. It's almost too much to absorb." The image of a baby entering the world with so much history behind him, so much pain and love swirling in the air, feels almost poetic, like life insisting on moving forward no matter what. Curtis and her husband, Christopher Guest, have been married since 1984, which in Hollywood is epic. They have 2 daughters, Annie and Ruby, both of whom tied the knot in their parents' LA home. Curtis even officiated Ruby's wedding in 2022. This is a crew that shows up for each other no matter what. Rob Reiner's connection to their family ran deep. Christopher Guest worked with Rob on This Is Spinal Tap, the classic 1984 mockumentary that refuses to age, and a few months before Rob died, they reunited to film Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues, released in September 2025. Honestly, imagine how bittersweet that must feel. One last creative collaboration before suddenly, tragically losing him. After the tragedy, Jamie Lee Curtis released a statement with her husband saying they were numb and sad and shocked about the violent, tragic deaths of our dear friends. They focused on Rob and Michelle's kids and their families. That's who Jamie Lee Curtis is, thinking of others first, even in her own heartbreak. The circumstances around Rob and Michelle's deaths are as tragic as they are bewildering. Their son Nick had struggled for years with addiction and homelessness. Rob even depicted it in his 2016 film, Being Charlie. Nick's in custody, no bail, and authorities haven't released a motive. The case is still playing out in court. When experts talk about the case, they call it rare. Not only because it involves such prominent people, but because of the circumstances. A son accused of killing both parents is rare. Using a knife in what seems like an impulsive act adds another layer of confusion. Experts point out that while families are built on love, they carry decades of baggage, frustration, anger, wounds that never really heal, especially when addiction complicates everything. It doesn't make it easier to understand, but it shows how every headline hides a deep, messy human story. Rob and Michelle left behind more family: Jake, 34, Romy, 28, and Tracy, whom Rob adopted during his marriage to Penny Marshall. Now these real people face the impossible task of grieving in the spotlight, trying to pick up pieces that just won't go together. But Jamie Lee Curtis ended her story with the baby, because even in the thickest darkness, there's light. A little boy arrived, woven into a narrative so heavy, but so full of hope. He'll grow up with stories about Rob and Michelle Reiner, about how they shaped his family and touched so many lives. He'll hear about the films, the activism, the love they offered, and how his birth helped his family keep moving forward. And really, grief and joy, they're not opposites, they're partners. They just occupy the same space. Life doesn't hit pause for heartbreak, it keeps going. New babies, new birthdays, new chances, whether we want them or not. Jamie Lee Curtis captured it. Life on life's harshest terms, and life on life's most beautiful, perfect terms, all at once. So, welcome to the world, little one. You showed up just when you were needed.